let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll have roll call of officers.
Marlowe's not here. McGarry,
Here.
McLaughlin,
Here.
Frost here. Lewandowski, not here yet. Can,
Here.
Rizzo,
Here.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Okay, we need a first.
Approve the agenda.
Okay,
Do the motion.
okay, I'll make the motion, then we should have someone else. Let's have Bob.
Second.
Okay, you second.
You have 2 seconds.
Okay, you wanna make the motion to approve the agenda?
Okay, make a motion to approve the agenda of August 15, 2022 as submitted.
Okay. All those, any discussion on the agenda at all? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? Motion passes. Okay, we're down to public comment. Do we have any public comment? At this time? Okay, we'll save it for later, then I guess we'll have another public comment. We're gonna have a public hearing on the official zoning map, rezoning Township File 22003. I would like to open the public hearing. Do I need a motion to open it? I will.
If, you can say unless there are any objections, I open the public hearing.
Okay. Unless there's any objections, I open the public hearing. Okay, hearing none, I will close the public hearing and open up for discussion.
All right. So this is a bit peculiar. Salem Township is the applicant, and Salem Township gets to review it. So the zoning map amendment is from agricultural residential and low-density residential to recreation conservation for 5 properties that the township owns. It would allow for continuation of the current use of the property, and it would require, if it were ever split in the future, larger lots. That's the big difference between the current zoning district and the proposed. The proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the future land use map. Jumping ahead a little bit. In the report. I don't see it in here. But it's consistent with the future land use map that calls for the area to be recreation conservation. And for zoning map amendments, this body makes a recommendation to the township board, and the township board has the ultimate authority to adopt it as an ordinance amendment.
And now, are we specifying the number or the area of the new, in other words, like the new zoning? Would it be 10 acres, or would it be, is there a specified amount of the way it's zoned?
Pull this up. So,
The intent is that instead of having high density like the PUD development or whatever, we would have this for recreation, and it would be larger units, such as, an example, 10 acres, so that it would be strictly for recreation.
yeah, the most substantial difference is the minimum lot area increases to the 10 acres.
Okay,
Right now
minimum
it's-
10 acres.
Yep.
Okay.
For whatever reason, I didn't print two-sided on here, my apologies.
Okay, well, is there any discussion on that, on the rezoning of the property?
Where are these properties?
These are our, you know, like the land preserve, the Salem Township Land Preserve.
Salem and 5?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
and all the land that the township owns, you know, we've got some spatterings around it, land, that we basically preserve, you know, is what we're
I'm
talking about.
asking what the addresses are. On a map, where are these properties?
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm a little,
And you rock, don't worry about it. Oh, okay, wait, oh, okay, here we go. Is this is,
yep, there's maps in there.
Yeah, it's in.
Trying to get you the page.
okay, so.
Yep, on page 7.
Yeah, page 7.
Well, that is currently. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it is that property. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, 1, 2.
So let me ask if this is, we don't want anybody building on it, or if they want, if something happens and somebody wants to build, what you're saying is 1 house per 10 acres,
Correct.
if that ever happens,
Yep. So the
if it got
township,
sold.
yes, the township is the owner, gets say on if it's ever sold for the
Right.
first part. From the zoning perspective, your future land use map and your master plan says, we want this to be recreation
Mhm.
conservation area. So in the future, if someone wanted to develop it, if it were disposed of by the township, they could do it at that 1 to 10 acres. If they wanted to do anything more dense, they would likely have to go through the process of revising the master plan, because when you go from 10 acres to 2 acres, that's a rather big change.
Correct.
If they maybe 10 acres to 5 acres, that's not so big a stretch, but it doesn't prevent it from being developed in the future, but it adds a lot
Makes
of
it
extra
harder.
steps.
Yeah.
And what's the total acreage here? It's somewhere close to 300, isn't it?
235 acres.
There we go.
Yeah, because didn't we talk about this a few weeks back? with-
235.
There's also an ordinance that prevents it from just being simply sold and 2 minutes later being developed.
Right, right.
Well, the zoning change would strengthen the township's authority as far as applicants are concerned.
Correct. And it would make the current use of the property more consistent with the zoning ordinance.
Right. So it strengthens it substantially.
Makes the current use of the property aligned with zoning
Yep.
ordinance definitions.
Right.
Okay, so cart before the horse, but nonetheless, they both get there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any more discussion?
Have there been any comments from neighbors or anybody,
Yep.
for whatever reason? Okay, what page are we on there? Well, I thought this was standalone, not necessarily part of the packet. Okay, but this isn't relevant to the rezoning, this is just a standalone message.
Yep.
I don't consider that relevant.
No.
It's related to the use of the property and how it's maintained versus the zoning map amendment request, correct?
Okay, would rezoning that property address anything that's written in this?
No.
Would it enable anything? Would it be an inhibitor to anything, or? Okay, I'll just go back to it.
Yep, this would be.
It's talking about the same address, but it's not related to the subject
Right.
Correct.
or the topic. Okay, fair enough.
Excuse me, Chair, I do think, though, we do need to read it for the public record, because this is what they have requested.
I get a-
Chair, read the letter.
Shall I read the letter then?
Yeah.
All right, so received August 12th from the township offices. Written comments regarding the proposed amendment to the Salem Township Preserve zoning, August 12th, 2022. To Ann Alexander, Gary Whitaker, Land Preservation Department, and Salem Township residents, from George and Linda Haas. We live at 7110 Salem Road, which is directly across the street from the Salem Township Preserve. We have a clear view of the preserve, so we hear and see what goes on over there and are ready to share our concerns. There's been a lack of management, monitoring, and neglect of the preserve ever since it was established. Over the years, we have seen many incidents and problems occur. We often text Gary Whitaker to share our concerns both in writing and in photos. We also call the sheriff, but that hasn't helped. They arrive about an hour after the vandalism has taken place. I never see any police or sheriffs monitoring the parking lots.
Thank you, sir.
The following list of problems has caused the preserve to become a public nuisance for Salem Township. The doggy dispensers are routinely overflowing with trash. The trash is not removed on a regular basis as it should be. The grass is often overgrown on the paths and around the benches, making them difficult to navigate. Mowing and trimming on the paths should be done routinely throughout the entire summer and fall. There's vandalism taking place day and night. Cars, trucks, ATVs, and motorcycles spin out and do donuts in the parking lot, causing lots of noise and dust for my family and our neighbors to endure. Occasionally, there are fireworks being set off out along the trails. Trash is left on the property after the late night visitors leave, which is not cleaned up, even when it's brought to the township's attention. There's frequent loitering at the preserve. It is quite common for vehicles to be sitting in the parking lot at all hours of the night between 10 p.m. and 6:30 a.m. There's a total lack of maintenance on the peeling white post and rail fence on the perimeter, and the split rail fencing is in poor condition also. Due to the above mentioned vandalism, loitering, dust, noise, and lack of maintenance, we are very unhappy with the current operation of the preserve. We often contact Gary about our concerns, but it seems that little is done to change the situation. It seems that we get excuses and promises for the future. We'd like the preserve to be regularly maintained, regularly monitored, police and cameras, and the gate should be on a timer to only be open from dawn to dusk each day to discourage vandalism and loitering at all hours of the day and night. We feel these changes would help to cut down on the problems we're witnessing. Unfortunately, this once beautiful piece of property has been neglected and become a public nuisance for my neighbors in Salem Township. It is the township's responsibility as a property owner to eliminate the public nuisance. It is imperative that the above suggested changes be made to the operation of the Salem Preserve, otherwise we do not support the zoning amendment and would suggest the township sell the property.
Gary?
Dan, I'd just like to make a comment, first of all, I think the Land Preservation Board, some of them are here tonight, and we also have addressed on some things that needed to be addressed at the Farm Reserve. We have, from the people who wrote the letter, we have addressed every concern that they have called. So every time they call, I do address it from the township. There's some issues that still go on. They had some neighbors there that were caught by the police. There were semi-trucks parking there during the night. They let me inform me. We got a hold of the people who own the truck, and the trucks aren't there anymore. So there have been issues that are going on, but the township has addressed them. We have paid a company to maintain and mow the property. GFL, our landfill, has graciously last year said that they would cut the paths in the park, and they contracted someone to do it. This year, they did it, and then for some communications reasons, it got neglected, and we were informed about it, and the next day, it was addressed, on some of the issues that they had complained about as far as the upkeep. The fences have been, we have bills on this that we have had scraped and painted twice already since the township has owned it. Right now, there's a Girl Scout, Eagle Scout person who is scraping it, fixing up the fence, and also painting it, and they are supposed to start on that next week. And then I know the land preservation, along with Bruce is on it as the treasurer of the township, has addressed that there will be some, putting together some rules and maybe hiring somebody to walk through there once a week or whatever to help monitor any problems that are going on. But I just want, again, for the public record, I know I'm the township supervisor, but I have addressed all the concerns. And during the time that the township has owned this property, I believe that we've had about 3 complaints. One, it was taken care of right away. And, I mean, this family has complained several times, but the rest of the neighbors have really not raised any concerns other than, we do need more police protection, and we don't want people hanging out there at night, because, and we need to come up with some better ways. But between myself, the treasurer of the township, and the land preservation, we are addressing it. And unfortunately, it doesn't happen overnight, but I just want to assure the planning commission and others that are here that we are addressing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. Is there any other discussion? So, Zach, it's up to us to make a recommendation to the board, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to pass this zoning, rezoning rather, Township File 22003. And I need a motion to that effect.
That's a discussion, right?
Yeah,
Just
we'll-
make-
We'll have a discussion after the motion, we can do that. That's normally the course of Robert's Rules of Order.
That's the motion.
Yeah, you make the motion, you don't pass it, you make it. We need to have a motion made. In order for us to have a discussion, we need a motion. That proceeds. Yeah. Okay, so do I have a motion?
I thought you just stated it.
No, I need a motion. Planning committee, is there, anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion
A motion by Kevin.
to, what do we want to do to?
We want to recommend to the board to approve the rezoning, Township File 22003.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the rezoning of property parcel 22003.
Right. Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Gerald. Okay, discussion.
There we go. I just gotta ask, did it go through the proper times, notifications?
Yep.
Does Salem Township pay a fee to themselves, just for the record? I mean, I honestly don't know, but I gotta ask.
No, when the township is the applicant, you don't pay yourself. The township did have to pay for the mailings itself and for the publishing of the newspaper.
Okay. But it did go through the proper
Correct.
notification
Yep.
timing slots, okay? Thank you.
And for those real nerdy folks, if you're doing a zoning map amendment of 11 or more contiguous properties, you don't actually have to send out the letters to the people. You can just publish it in the newspaper. It's a weird quirk, but everyone, they send out the letters.
Nothing less, 11 or more.
11,
Yeah.
where that magic number came from, I don't know.
That's usually my type of question.
Are these preserves, are there gates in front of them? When the parking areas or just in the walking areas?
I would defer
There's
to-
just, I believe, just a gate off
We have
the
one
road.
gate,
One
one gate.
In the walking area, you can park into
The
it?
main
and there's-
parking lot off Salem Road, there's a parking area, and there's a gate there, and then there's another walk-in area off of Brookville. But that's walk-in only, there's no parking.
Yeah.
So the gates are never locked, there's no,
No. Yeah, I know the request was made, put an automatic shut in there, and that's really hard to do, because if there's someone still in there, they get locked in, right? Okay, now what do you do? Or you gotta worry about kids, right? Someone's gonna be, and it'll be a maintenance nightmare too, because
Yeah.
something's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
you know,
So,
I have a question.
Sue?
So now, maybe it's more for Zach. You know, there's a lot of different parcels there. And they all have different numbers. Would this now be zoned, since it's owned by one owner, could it be all one parcel?
It could be combined,
Is it-
yes.
So how does that happen? Because there's like 15, no, there's 5 parcels.
five different.
Yep. So any applicant can come in and request combination, and it's one of the things that the township does for free, because planning and zoning wise, we like to get properties bigger than chopping them up. And basically what you need to have is proof of ownership, you need to have proof that your taxes are paid.
Got
and-
that, you got it all.
yeah, and you need to have legal description of the property at the end of the day.
We got that.
So yeah, it's basically you have, the main thing is the survey legal description, there's a little form, we stamp it, and then it goes to county equalization department, and they draw the magic lines on the map.
That's the way to go.
So could you consider that and put that in?
Well, we could
It's not
entertain a
part of the
motion
plan.
under new business to,
Would it be easier down the road for a developer to come in and buy it all if we made it one parcel? And would it be, harder to keep it, the different parcels, this way if somebody did come in and buy it?
Well, if you combine them all into one piece, he's gotta write a really big check, right? They
Yeah.
are
Then you lose
versus
all your
I just
pieces.
want this piece.
That's kind of what
You lose all
I
your
would like to
pieces.
get, I want a developer.
I don't think it's for us to decide or move forward with anything like that. I can't say I understand the tax implications of bringing 5 parcels together into one. Does it then get reassessed? There may not be advantages to that, but,
Well, we own it.
Yeah, so,
I understand. But that's not the proposal that we're here to work on tonight.
It is-
That's out of the scope of what we're being asked to
the
do.
the township board can combine it however they would like to in the future.
Later on down the road.
With this application, and this is kind of more for future zoning map amendments, it has been presented by the applicant, the township, without any conditions. An applicant could come in the future and say, I want to do a zoning map amendment and I'll combine these properties, or I will dig a ditch, or something like that. The state of Michigan says you can do those conditional zoning map amendments, but the applicant has to present them. You can't request them or place them. But it's the township board could combine 2 into 1, 2 into 1, or all of them into one. Like I said, it's a fairly easy administrative task. Generally, for assessing purposes, the assessors don't consider it a new property as if it's turned over because you're not changing what you own. Now, there are some weird times where if you have 2 properties on the lake and one has a house and one doesn't have a house and you combine it, that can do some weird things, but for this one, there wouldn't be any issues with that. The township owns it, so it's not paying any taxes right now.
Just throwing out there, and I don't know what would the implications be of the address and how many accesses to main roads would you have? For residential property, you're allowed to have 2, nothing more. You know, this right now is 5 different properties, maybe that allows 5 different, 6 different, 7 different access roads to it. If we combine it to, maybe that wouldn't be allowed, and it would have to be an exception. I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there, but it's not what we're here to do tonight.
okay, we have a motion. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor of recommending the changes to the rezoning of file 22003 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
I'm not opposed. Shouldn't this be a roll call?
It could be more clean, yeah. So if you're spending money, it has to be a roll call. If you
Except
use
we're not,
procedure-
we're just making a recommendation.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
We're just making a recommendation to the
Okay,
board.
I'm just simply asking. Fine, thank you.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, a new business item is the All-American Minor Site Plan, Township File 22004. And Zach, I guess you might want to give a brief overview of
All right.
this storage area.
So property's located at 10-126 6 Mile, down the road there. The request is for minor site plan approval. There has previously been site plans approved. The proposed change doesn't rise to the level of a full site plan, but it's too big to be done administratively. The kind of gist of it is an area calls for 3 individual storage buildings, and the applicant instead wants to do 1 large storage building in that area. And I'm not sure why, but my printed report only has every other page. So if folks are awesome at seeing it, let me know. It's a 9.5 acres property. It's got 600 feet of frontage. It's currently used for self-storage warehouses, including outdoor storage of the recreational vehicles. I know I'm gonna have tech issues.
Wouldn't the gist of it be though that they're requesting, they have multiple buildings and they wanna have one building, same square footage, and the same impervious land covered by the single building as the multiple buildings?
Yep.
So it's only going from multiple buildings to a single building, everything else is the same.
Yep. Property is in the general industrial, it's a permitted use there. There are no challenges with the property itself, with respect to the soils or wetlands or woodlands or any of that stuff. It does meet the setbacks. There are a couple of details that aren't on there, like the floor area ratio isn't called off, but just the eyeball test says that it's okay. Some of the other building details aren't on there. That can be added and reviewed administratively for consistency. For access and circulation, the fire chief made a couple of comments. He would like to have a second emergency access to the site. The approved plan and the minor site plan calls for the driveway in front of the house to be kind of filled in. The chief, my understanding is, would like to have that remain as an emergency access point. Let's see, we would like to see a couple of fire breaks in the RV parking areas so that they're not all jammed, that there's kind of some spots where there's a gap so the fire doesn't jump off. And to do some additional space on the northwest corner of phase 2 to allow fire apparatus to make a turn. So that's fire chief comments. No concerns with off-street parking or loading. Everyone parks in front of the unit to get in there. There won't be any change with that. For essential services, it'll be served by utilities that are on the site. The location of all the utilities isn't shown in the minor site plan, so that's something we'd like to get added for the future. So if anyone has to pop a shovel, we know where to try to avoid. No changes to the landscaping that was previously approved. The site plan does say that there is going to be exterior lighting on the building, and our comment is that that new lighting should match what was approved previously. And my computer's freezing up now. There are going to be no changes or additional signs. So for minor site plans, this could be the last stop if you guys are satisfied. If there's some information that you need that in order for you to make a decision, you can postpone and request that. From the zoning perspective, it does appear to meet the criteria. There is some additional information that ought to be added, and it's not significant, at least from the planning and zoning side. So that could be reviewed administratively. And a couple of potential conditions we've noted are building plans and floor area ratio added to the minor site plan, addressing the chief's concern for circulation, adding utility systems, and the township engineer noted in his review that there are no issues with the stormwater management because they're not increasing the impervious surface, so it doesn't require review through Water Resources Commissioner. And then the condition that the exterior lighting fixtures be consistent with what was previously approved.
So what do we need to do is relevant to the fire chief's request? Linda?
So I have a question about what Jim wrote. Normally, when somebody reviews a plan, they review it to some type of standards, to the zoning ordinance, to engineering standards. You don't get to just say, in my opinion, here's what I'd like to have. And I brought this up to this body before, that there are codes that the fire department lives to. First of all, for Jim to comment on site plan, he should have taken training, and I'd asked to see his accreditation, and I get to see that. But he doesn't just get to say, here's what I'd like to do. If those of you who are on the board remember when the library put the children's edition on, he decided he wanted a road during the library. Cost $100,000 extra, would have taken $100,000 from the children's section. You don't get to just say what you want. If there's code that has to be, you have to design to, then he needs to specify that code. And I think that if you have any questions about Mr. Rockwell's report, that's what that ought to be, is not what are we gonna force on a property owner that some individual wants, but it's what is the code, and provide the code so that we can decide whether code's interpreted correctly. All code is subject to review, it's subject to appeal, and yet there's no code reference, so we're taking away the property owner's right to appeal if what has been recommended to the board is not reasonable, nor is it correct.
If there's code, as you say, Linda, then it could be handled administratively, couldn't it? I mean, we don't have to go through jumping hoops here. Code is the code. If that's the code, then the people will have to comply to the code, right?
So,
Should be on the site plan.
Yeah.
so if, for example, I'm gonna pick on Dexter Township, I was a zoning administrator there for many years. Dexter Township did not adopt the fire code. They thought that was for cities and they didn't wanna get in that. But when we'd have the couple commercial buildings approved there, the fire chief would still say, I wanna have a Knox box, I wanna have this thing, I wanna have that thing. For residential stuff, he'd say, I wanna have a dry hydrant or an alarm or something like that. If the township had adopted fire code, it would have been, you must.
The township has adopted, they've adopted NFPA 1 and NFPA 101.
So, the planning commission, your charge is public health, safety, and welfare. So if you think there are things that are necessary that may not be in code, but that are consistent with promoting public health, safety, and welfare, you could have it as a condition of approval. As long as there's a rational nexus between what you're trying to do and how you're trying to do it. If that makes sense. So it is possible to say, we want to have Knox boxes on these buildings, even if you don't have fire code. The chief can't demand it, but the planning commission can say that's important for public health, safety, welfare, that if there's an incident, they can get in the building quickly. So it is a potential for this body to require things that aren't necessarily in code.
With this situation, I don't know that we're equipped at this point in time to make any decisions on his recommendations. Do we hold off on taking action on this to find out, or do we just have the township do it administratively?
I think.
Which they can do, can they not, Zach? Couldn't they administratively say, we would like you to do this?
Well, so, a potential, I'm gonna be a good planner and give you multiple different options to choose from on your smorgasbord. The township could say, we approve it, subject to approval by the fire chief for circulation. And so that would allow the applicant to kind of have conditional approval tonight, but then they'd have to go and make the fire chief happy with circulation. And the fire chief is giving you an idea of what types of things he'd want to be happy with it. You could say, you and the fire chief get together and sort this out, put it on the plan and come back to us. And so it depends on what.
I kind of agree with Linda. I don't think we can leave it to one person to just arbitrarily, make requirements that aren't code. Linda?
When we built the library back in the 90s, the building inspector said we had to have non-com plywood on the roof. Typically something you do when you have other buildings by you. We had the right to appeal that decision. And we did, and we did put non-com plywood on because we didn't win our appeal. But there was a body to appeal to. When you give it to some individual who may or may not be qualified, again, I'm waiting to see that Jim has this training, that he's certified to review plans and to make these comments. I have opinions about everything, I think you know that. But I don't think it's right for any applicant to be held to standards that don't exist. And that's what I'm trying to say. I've been through it personally with Jim. He all the time speaks off the cuff. NFPA 1 was adopted by Salem Township, as was NFPA 101. One is life safety, the other safety. Those are the standards to which you have to design a building. So for a house, for an example, it's not that I have to have a dry well out front. The township can't require that. That's absolutely ludicrous. You have to have a pond, number one, before you can have a dry well. You have to have a certain amount of water, the depth in the pond, before you can have a dry well. But when you build a new house in Salem Township, code very clearly says you have to have hardwired smoke detectors and CO2 detectors. Number of you guys on the board know that, you've built houses here in the township. That's fair, because when you're designing, you know the standards to which you have to design. You don't come in and the building inspector here doesn't say, by the way, I think you need, I would like to see you do this, or I'd like to see you do that. He holds you to the code. The electrical inspector holds you to code. The mechanical inspector holds you to code. Now, they may be helpful. When I built my house, the mechanical inspector was really helpful. He said, you realize if we were gonna go with a tankless hot water system, he said, you have to have one for each shower that you have. I didn't know that. That was code, and so by giving us that information, we were able to make an informed decision. And that's the problem, and I have brought this up again to this body before. If Jim is citing code, then it should be included, just like anybody else's report cites section ABC.123. It doesn't cite code, so I have to make the assumption that he's just telling us his preference. We don't govern by preference. We're a country of rule of law, not someone's opinion. Thank you again, Dan.
Sure.
Zach, should we be getting input from our building inspector regarding state laws regarding the fire systems?
That is generally handled when the folks come in for the zoning permit and the building permit.
Okay.
Try to think of an example of that. So for example, with the renewable natural gas facility, there was discussion about it needs to be fire suppressed. And this body kind of said, make sure it's fire suppressed the way it's supposed to be, and they actually had to put a separate building to hold a water tank to suppress it. So this body, in that case, wasn't involved necessarily in all the details of it, it was because it's clearly written. I will say that, you know, this body, if it does feel there is something that's not necessarily in code, that there's a nexus between public health, safety, and welfare, the opportunity to appeal that decision, this body's decision, is to the zoning board of appeals. So that's a fun thing. Almost everything the planning commission does, or I do in administration of the zoning ordinance, can be appealed. We disagree with it, we think you did something wrong. It's a really weird and fun thing to be, but there is still an appeal process.
What's your recommendation for us to get past this bypass here? Go ahead,
Can I
TJ.
chime in? You know, they came to us because they wanted to build this one building as opposed to the other three, which we already had gone through the site plan. So now they're just changing this. I see that a lot of these, it seems like most of these fire recommendations don't have anything to do with what we're approving as far as the building. So I don't see why, if someone wants to build something, now we're gonna come in and look at their whole property, like the back of their property where they have RV parking lanes, and say that they need to do this and that. When we're here to approve the building, and so, I mean, I think the fire safety, anything that we would say needed to be there would just have to do with the building going up.
Right.
And not with anything else, not making a list of their whole property,
Well-
you know, like a wish list of things they would like.
Well said, TJ, well said.
Yep. And that's consistent with what your zoning ordinance
Right.
says, is that this is what you're looking at. There are
Yeah.
some communities that say, if you're doing a substantial improvement on a site, then we can require you to do other improvements
Sure.
somewhere else. So like if
Sure.
you're doubling the size of a building, we want you to put in some landscaping and other stuff.
Yeah, this change isn't even affecting the property or any of the surrounding requirements of the property. And like TJ says, this requirement by the fire chief is really not pertinent to what we're discussing here on this site plan.
I mean, unless some of this is there, potential issue with the size of the building and the ability to get in
So
to it,
there's none of that.
then maybe we should address that.
Yeah,
It's right on the road. You should think about it.
yeah. So, you know, what we can do is we could pass a motion based on the proposed site plan. And let's, why don't we do that? And then we're,
I got it.
Yep.
okay,
And,
go ahead, go ahead. Okay.
Well, we haven't made a motion, so I.
I was just gonna also say,
Other
on
questions?
page 9, there are potential conditions. I like to write stuff down, so I find it's easier to cut and adjust what's there than come up with them, so.
Sure.
As you're making your motion, think about those, and if there are any of them that you don't think apply, just say, we don't like number whatever. Or we move to approve it with condition 1, 5, 7, and 10. Or whatever you think is applicable.
Yeah.
It said that the impermeable ground area from currently approved to this would not change, so they're counting the driveway sections like in between these couple buildings, I'm
Correct.
imagining. Okay. 50 feet shows that the 50 feet is the max height of a building in this area?
I believe so,
Is
yes.
50 feet for the general? And they've met the setback?
Yes. So, the eyeball test, the things that aren't on there, the lot coverage, it's not over, but it's not calculated, it's,
You mean the ratio of what's covered?
Yeah.
I'm not too concerned about that. I don't think there's anything that can be done, quite honestly, but I'm just picturing if this building goes 50 feet and it's right up close to the road, you know, are people gonna object if they can't see the landfill or something? You know? But,
or you could put a
You know.
condition that the building must be 50 feet high.
yeah, right?
Can't see the dirty hill.
And this is an indoor storage area, this is like your drive-in, this will be climate controlled or something along those lines.
That's my understanding.
So cars going in and out of there, you know, staying out of the weather, and
Mhm.
you know how many stories this thing is expected to be?
Just a single story. The roof's gonna be taller, obviously, because the building's wider.
Yeah, I don't know which way their pitch goes or anything like that, but yeah, the 312, they got at least 10-foot rise, you know, to go across.
The gable will be running parallel to 6 Mile.
Okay.
Question about lighting.
It's indoor storage. so
As
if you
I
drive in, you don't
thought
have
I
to park
remembered-
outside the garage. It's-
I'd seen something before with this building, lighting was on the side so that there wasn't lighting going into the street. But now that it's gonna be a large building, where is the lighting gonna be?
The notes on there are that it is going to be on the side.
Still on the side?
Yep.
Okay.
Anything on the back side, the south side?
That's one of the details that we don't have.
And of course, nothing on 6 Mile.
Yeah. that's-
No entrances on 6 Mile.
Correct.
And everything is within the gate, go around. Okay.
Correct.
That's what they're saying.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, we need a motion to approve this site plan.
Make
Anybody?
a motion and I'll second. Don't have to make a motion.
All the other gables on
Darryl?
those buildings, all those other gables on those buildings run north-south right now, right?
Correct.
You wanna make a motion, Darryl?
I make a motion to approve, let me see, where's the number? A-01-13-200-017, as submitted to the planning commission.
I second it.
Kevin seconds it. All those in favor of the motion?
We can have discussion at this
Discussion.
point, please.
Okay, you want discussion? Have it.
I'm,
Yeah.
guys, I don't know how my mind works. I'm picturing, we've got all those roofs there right now, all gables are going north-south. We all of a sudden put one east-west, fine, you know, houses do that all day. Do we know what the roof structure is gonna be made of, and are we gonna like have a big reflection surface with a south sun? I'm just trying to picture everything that would be different, that could all of a sudden be a, ooh, gotcha.
We don't have that information.
Okay, we don't know what the roof looks like, we don't know the total height of the building.
Correct, we know the total height is less than 50 feet, but if it's 25 or 28, I don't know.
And it has to be above a certain pitch, right? It has to be above, what, 312 now? And is that for GI as well?
What's that?
General industrial, is there a roof pitch minimum?
Actually, no, I think that just applies to residential.
Yes, it does.
Is the property owner here?
And
I'm representative from Ambit Surveyors.
On the set of plans you got, is it showing the kind of roof material you're putting on there?
I just have the site plan.
Okay.
I don't have that information either.
but we're saying this is a one-story building, but the best we can do is say it's less than 50 feet tall at this point.
Yeah. And so one of the potential conditions is that the building plans get incorporated into the site plan. So you have something to say, this is what we've approved.
The building plan gets added into the site plan that's already been approved.
Yeah, so,
I think,
well, and so the importance for that is because it's commercial, you want to know what building you're approving.
and I'm just gonna equate with right down the street, and this was the previous gentleman that was here. You know, we did one for the landfill on the south side of 6 Mile, and, you know, what we saw there was, this is the building. This is what it looks like, this is kind of like a road view, this is the height, this is the shape, size, et cetera, and, you know, there was kind of a, okay, get it, this is where lights were, and okay, this is what's gonna be shining to the road. We're looking at a building now that could be 50 feet high, and it is really close to the road, and there's, you know, quasi-residential-ish, you know, right across the street, and I don't feel as comfortable with this one, with the unknowns, as opposed to what we've known for something that wasn't as obtrusive previous. We're kind of working opposite corners of the box right now. If we were up here or over here, that'd be great, but we're really kind of in opposite diagonals of the known versus risk box of what the impacts could be. So,
Mark, you mentioned about the slope of the roof and reflection. Well, reflection to the south is nothing, because there's nothing there but
Right.
storage. So there's no residential until you get down by the railroad.
yeah, I'm talking to the north.
But strictly from the north, the sun doesn't come really that far north.
Here's
Catch
north,
that.
here's south, here's summer sun, here's a roof.
But it's,
I mean,
you know, it's only for a short time.
I mitigate risk for a living.
Well,
That's, you know, so I'm just
Well,
trying.
what's your recommendation, Bart?
I'd like to see more on the building itself, the height of the building, the roof, where the lighting is. I mean, it's stuff that we typically have, and we gotta do diligence, maybe just not be as lax with, oh yeah, we trust it's gonna happen, oh yeah, we trust it's gonna happen. Show that it meets code, show that it meets our zoning for all these things, present it, and we'll rip it through.
Yep,
But
so
I don't know,
that's-
just with it being that close to the road, residential across the street, I think we should do a little more diligence on
Okay,
this one.
well,
Yep, and that's the case where if you guys aren't concerned, as long as it's less than what the zoning allows, then you can approve it and say, get the plans on there.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I'm not gonna object to, if it meets code, it meets code, it meets our zoning, that's fine. I think it's more on the, I don't know,
But yeah,
let's
it's
just not be as relaxed with these things.
But certainly a 50-foot building would have a different impact than a 20-foot building.
Yeah, and the fact that it's been stated, it's one story, but the best we can do is say it's less than 50 feet. If I were presenting this, I would say, yeah, it's a single-story building, it's gonna have such and such a pitch, the max you're gonna see is, you know, 25 feet. You know, and
And I'm
because
working
now
with
if you put a
community-
light up at the eaves, what are you, 40 feet off the ground?
Yep.
And you're this close to the road, plus there's a little extra rise there, you know.
Yep. And I'm actually working in another community where they're doing a single-story storage, but it's racked for boats, so it's a single story, but it's a really tall single story. So it sounds like there's interest in more information from the applicant.
So we have a motion that needs to be voted on
Yeah.
first.
A motion to postpone would hold precedent over that.
Right.
And I would recommend if you go down that course that you very clearly state what additional information you want from the applicant.
Yeah, I mean, usually we have a plan itself, you know, ingress, egress is gonna change, you know, what's traffic flow pattern, I mean, is it that many more potential people coming in? I mean, when you look at 30 by 70, so 2,100 square feet, figure they're 10 by 10, okay, so you got what? What's my math there? 210, so 630 people coming in. All right, is there something we should be concerned with for traffic? Probably not, but with this one building, maybe, you know, there's more efficiently used space, I'm guessing, maybe there's 5 by 5 lockers, could it mean that many more people? It's, I'm sure gonna be, I guess it's 24/7 access there to that anyway, so that wouldn't necessarily change anything.
Do you want to make a motion to postpone, Bert?
I think we should consider it.
The building's not considerably bigger than the 3 buildings it replaces.
Right, yeah, 11,200, so there you go, 10 by 10, you're talking, you know, there you go. 1,120, we said 200, yeah, so you're really talking twice the amount of,
And that, you know, with the
almost
3
twice the amount
buildings
of renters.
previously,
for the
that was
city.
approved previously, I just,
Yeah, did we?
phase 1, it was part of phase 2 with phase 1 on the last planning commission or site plan approval.
I'm not gonna object to All-American doing more business and have more people come in here, God bless you guys if you can do it, figure a way to do it. I guess, do we have something that, is there something that we should be looking at when it comes to, you know, that much more traffic going in and out, potential traffic, egress of the driveway, I don't know.
Well, we already had approved
Yeah.
3 more buildings, so there already
Right,
was
but
gonna
you
be
look at what that is,
the traffic.
Traffic is the same.
Yeah, the flow pattern would be
this
different for
gentleman
one
just
building
said,
as opposed to
the
3.
area under roof, we've gone from 6,300 square feet to 11,200 square feet. That is either bigger lockers or many more of the same size lockers, basically almost double the amount. So that's, I don't know.
We do have
Go
here
ahead,
apparently.
and you rock this house.
Yep. The applicant submitted kind of a building permit package as part of this, that
Mhm.
wasn't part of the site plan. And the plans we see here show a wall height of 8'4" and the lower slope. Do my quick math, so roughly 15 feet to the peak of the building.
And the 140 feet runs parallel to 6 Mile?
Correct. Trying to see if there's any in plan with this.
No, if you say the wall height is 8'4",
Yeah.
good grief, that's nothing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's about the height of the same buildings.
But I don't know if
That are there now.
Is this considered part of our packet that we reviewed, that we allowed to make our decision? Or was this not officially, I don't understand, I can't say I understand the rules of what we're allowed to make, what the evidence, what the data is that we make our
Well,
decision.
we're
based.
allowed to ask questions. If we've got questions, we ask questions according to the information. If there's not enough answers in the information we have, we ask
Yeah,
questions.
I mean, and what do we typically do? Lighting, we do any sort of, you know, what does fencing look like, or any sort of, you know,
So
site blockage, whatever.
we can pass this around for folks to look at. What you could also do as a condition is say that the building shall be consistent with the plans dated 6/22/2022, which is what this plan set for the building is. So that would tie in the site plan with these building plans that aren't part of the site plan at present.
So we all gather around and, I guess I can't argue with that, I guess we could.
I don't know if they did this all.
Is there lighting just, described on there? And
It's not shown though.
That was part of the, on page 9, the potential conditions that could be a part of the
Right.
approval process.
Right.
Is that exterior lighting features would be consistent with the existing ones.
And, I mean, as I said, like, usually we get a plan that, you know, may say lighting located here, here, and here.
It seems
and-
like more than a minor site plan change.
There you go, young man.
So I'll share with you, buddy. Shall we mull?
And lighting wouldn't be anything different than what's on the other buildings?
That's one of the proposed conditions.
Yeah.
It doesn't
There's
state
no-
that, this
and
just
the
kind of.
lighting is either gonna be on the,
But the height of the
west side
buil-
or the south side.
The
nothing
height
on the
isn't
north
gonna
side.
impact the lighting that much, so, you know,
No,
I mean,
it's
it's
just
not
not
like a
lighting
40,
on
it's not
for,
40
You know,
foot high.
tornado
like
and
we were
rain
talking
and snow
earlier.
load and, this is the building manufacturer themselves.
There is no lighting for 6 Mile.
So we just wanna make sure it's consistent
Yeah, just
with
for
the.
clarity.
So if we do a motion, we can include some of these potential
Okay, this should be
conditions
30 feet.
in the
Right.
motion,
Correct.
that they've been met. And we would need to,
That shows no-
would we need to as far as like stormwater
Well, no,
management,
we're saying the
utility
building is
systems?
140.
Would that need to be part of the motion?
Previous building was
So
30 feet.
stormwater management system, my understanding is the township engineer says they're not increasing impervious
Yeah,
surface.
there's no-
That's
So
no
that's
problem.
not an issue?
Yep.
Okay.
This isn't even really built.
Utilities?
Um,
10,
My understanding is the township engineer didn't raise any concerns about that. Again, the reason why we'd like to see them on there is if there are any changes or shovels in the
Exactly.
ground.
This
This
building
is
we're
what
looking at
they're
is 30 feet
doing.
wide.
Okay.
It's a 30-foot wide steel building. It's not
That's-
80 or
that's not
140,
80
depending on
feet
which way you want to slice it.
Yeah,
So, as far as I'm concerned, this is irrelevant. Yeah, nice, I wouldn't mind having the building,
it's got a nice.
but it's
brick
a
on top.
30 by, so far I'm just seeing gable ends, and they're all just showing 30.
Yeah. it's,
30, spot on.
What was the height, I think, was it,
Yeah, so if that 8'4" is coming off of this, I'm, yeah, this is back in,
So-
It's like an idea of what they wanna go.
So you're showing this is just for
Do we wanna make a
construction of it's going to
motion
be?
that it be consistent with the original plan, the lighting part, be consistent with the original plan? That's the only thing I hear now is lighting. Do we have any other concerns besides lighting?
I'd like to understand if there's any concern, if we have thought about at least the traffic. You know, not that there's lots of traffic, it's not like a coffee shop, but, you know, we're going from 6,300, so 6,300 square feet divided by 100, so 63 to 11,000. Are they gonna be, how many potential different renters are in there? Is that something that we should consider?
So that could be a potential thing
You
that
know,
you want to hear is how
just-
many units are gonna be in here versus how many were originally approved.
And not, I wouldn't even know what to question, but is it something that we've considered? Do we say, yeah, I mean, when you make a change, right, it's apples, apples. You hear that all the time. Well, one of the things that before, whether it was considered or not, is this would expect X amount of traffic. I believe we can safely say this change could potentially expect something greater than X.
Especially
Is
as you
that something
mentioned-
that we should look at? I don't know. Is it something we should care about? Maybe it's not worth it. We've seen building as potentially high as 50 feet, and I gotta say, we haven't seen our consistent, you know, hey, here's where lights go, this is what the lighting style is, we got this under control, no neighbors are gonna complain. Whereas if they put it up and we say, yeah, you're good as long as you, whatever, they put something up and then we got neighbors complaining, we're going through a lot more loopholes than we probably should have.
Linda?
You have standards by which the planning commission ought to be considering this applicant stuff. And it's not sitting at the table talking about, is a roof gonna reflect to the neighbors? And then we find out that the building's only 30 foot tall. Because somebody's just musing. You have standards. And you have consultants review this. You know there are communities where they approve 10 and 15 items a night, their planning commission, because they trust that they've hired good
and our engineers.
I just find the way that tonight's working, I just heard that, listened for 10 or 15 minutes and it was irrelevant.
And I'm sorry, Linda, I didn't catch that last half a sentence. Listening for 10 or 15 minutes
So I listened to a discussion for 10 or 15 minutes and then I heard a planning commissioner say that it had been irrelevant. Again, you have standards that things are reviewed to. Reviewed by your consultants. Why are you trying to second guess what your consultants do? If you don't trust them, tell the board that you need different consultants.
Okay, well,
I say we make a motion, vote on it.
okay. Kevin makes a motion
I
to.
think we already made a motion, didn't we?
Okay, it's all set, okay. Okay, all those in favor of, oh, do you have something to say?
Yeah, we made a motion, but there was no conditions in that motion. Normally, we will do it with the condition that
With the
they,
condition that the lighting is, it doesn't, isn't
This
any
list
different
here.
than what we originally approved.
Number 6.
and did we straighten out all the other potential conditions?
Yeah,
if we
the
need
building
to
height is not an
include them?
issue. Traffic is, we don't know, okay?
It's a storage facility.
It's a storage
You're gonna
facility.
get, at the most, 2 cars standing there waiting to get in.
Right, okay,
So,
let's, okay, so we will include the lighting
Any of
in
this
the
other
motion.
stuff
What other stuff?
that he,
What do you think?
he
that-
listed, well, it was what Zach listed, potential.
Yeah, he listed that, but a lot of it didn't apply, did it, Zach? Did you?
Location utilities,
So the stormwater management no longer applies.
Right.
No, that doesn't apply.
It'd still would be good to get building plans actually incorporated into the document.
Okay,
It would still be good to show where the utilities are serving the building. My understanding is that there wasn't an interest in access and circulation by the fire chief. And then the exterior lighting fixtures, so I would have 1, 2, 4.
but the fire chief is not pertinent to what we're discussing here tonight.
So I hear 1, 2, and 6.
I mean, the township engineer should review the circulation. Right. I mean, okay. So the township engineer did, okay, traffic circulation.
This is a building
Just that it's consistent.
site plan that we're approving, or looking at, or considering, whatever you want to use there. The building height says general industrial district, 50 feet. Proposed says unknown.
Did you just?
There's this document that said, hey, this is something that they submitted along with it, but there's no 80 by 140 building in there, it's a 30 by 70, what was previously done. I don't need to see that. The complies says likely. So are we agreeing to 51% odds that, come on, guys, let's step back from this, let's get this cleaner and regroup. Let's see what the building looks like, something may come to mind, a thought may come to mind, whatever. I mean, that's what we're up here to do, health, safety, welfare. We haven't seen a clean plan that allows us to even think about potential or other health, safety, welfare things when it comes to this township. I think we need to do diligence, and I think having a standard of what we see every time, whether it's you use it to base your decisions and your recommendations on, and we see it and witness and say, yeah, we agree, it should be here. I would say I don't know what the necessarily standard is for a packet that we review, but I'll say certainly what we're used to is not here. And it's throwing me for a loop. I mean, we joked, we had those folks come in here and gave that whole 3D digital virtual image of what this whole thing would look like. We go, ooh, this is the new standard. This is in the opposite direction.
So what I could say is that we can't approve a zoning permit for a building that's taller than what the zoning ordinance says.
Right.
Certainly.
So
And
that's
this one
always
isn't.
gonna be in there. Now, we also always like to have the building plans incorporated in the site plan, at least the basic. How big is it, what do the facades look like, where are the doors, for various different reasons. Some communities are comfortable with, there are some details, we can let staff do it. Others want to have everything absolutely button tight. So if there are, it's up to you what your comfort level is.
I
If
think,
there are-
I think Bart is right, though, we do need to see, we do need to see a set of plans showing us something.
Is there any indication as to how they
Yeah.
control water runoff? Is it in the same manner? Is water being distributed to different directions in the same manner? Or
Yeah,
does a
nothing
withholding
changed.
pond need to be increased in one corner? I mean, these are the type of things that we look at and we see, and, you know, I don't think there's anything, I mean, not that elevation changes much there, but, you know, we have a retention pond, I think
Yeah.
is,
It flows to the same
I can
place
get
and
a
there won't
motion
be an
out of this
increase in
group for
volume.
anything.
Where the actual pipes are would be a little bit different, because there's not gonna be the catch basin in the middle of the driving lanes.
I think we're not doing diligence for this township if we let this go right now, and just, I think we just need to see something that's the standard. I mean, no matter what, at some point, All American has to do this plan to say, this is what needs to be built. No contractor's gonna say, okay, yeah, where do you want the building? How do you want runoff? You know, the electrical guy's not gonna go, well, where do you want the light? No, let's, you know, it's gotta be done sometime, let's do it, that we approve that, not the if-come of promises. You know, I sit here with an opinion, so.
Okay, well, what does the group wanna do? Do you wanna postpone it, or do you wanna vote on a motion with amendments?
With the
Let Bart
conditions.
decide.
Okay, yeah, okay, Bart, make the motion.
We have a motion already.
Well,
I-
you
I
don't wanna
reject
go with
my
that motion.
I can vote against it, you guys do, it's fine. Just do yours, and I'm my own person, I don't need 5 other heads to think.
And from Robert's Rules of Order, and very nerdy, but if there's a motion on the table, a motion to postpone to another meeting kind of trumps it.
Right,
And so you can have that one and then introduce that one.
that was what I was asking Bart to do. Got an opinion, gotta have action.
That's fine, and,
Okay.
and if you guys are, this should be approved under conditions, then I stand alone and that's fine. So if I'm thinking for the 5 of you and you guys are gonna agree with what I'm doing, that seems kinda counterintuitive than
We'll-
the
we'll
5 of you wanting
decide-
to approve.
We'll
and-
decide with your motion. We'll decide whether we wanna pass your motion or not.
So how's, oh, so I need a second anyway, okay, sure, I'll like, make it official, I make a motion that we postpone until we have higher detail that we can better base our decision on.
We have a motion to postpone, do we have a second?
I second.
Kevin seconds it. Okay, any more discussion? We've already discussed it to death, which we shouldn't wait until after the motion, but any discussion?
Can we, how much time frame? Next month, we bring it
Yeah,
back to the
I
board?
know it.
Well, I think they'd have to come back, you know, when they have it ready and with whatever.
Yep, so we like to get packets out a week ahead of time. We like to have a week to review them, so we need to have revised plans at least
So-
2 weeks before the
So
meeting.
we're under discussion for this motion that I made. I think it's actually the first motion I've ever made in the history of me being up here.
Do we get it in the
Which is
minutes?
kinda, but yeah, so discussion, throw darts at me. Am I off base?
No, like I said, there are a lot of communities that want everything buttoned up, and there are actually some communities that if I have more than 5 conditions, it's not ready for planning commission. There are other communities that are comfortable
Well,
with
this
You
is-
know,
each one.
you gotta consider relevance. Is there really an issue, or are we nitpicking? And I think that's where the issue is. We can nitpick almost any site plan we want. It's easy to do.
What
Come up with
site-
some action.
What's the site plan? Show me the site plan.
It was just presented.
Where? Show me it. Show me the site plan. We have a 30 by something building, not even a 30 by 70 from what I saw. We have a 30 by something building. We have a site plan that shows where the other buildings are. I've seen nothing that shows where a 140 by 80 is. I don't understand runoff. I don't understand lighting plan. We have a document that says likely for under 50 feet tall, or likely meets the GI requirement. Come on.
Well, you have the site plan that shows the new building.
The footprint of the new building.
That's
Footprint of the
aerial of the site.
Linda?
What's the ordinance require for a minor site plan revision? That's what you ought to be looking at, not everybody.
That's a good point, Linda. Thank you. Absolutely. And I'll,
I thought I had the floor to speak, because I don't understand why I'm being interrupted.
I'm sorry.
I didn't interrupt when someone else was talking. I waited till I was recognized. But I would think that that's a discussion now to have, is not somebody's opinion, not let's throw darts at people. Well, what does the ordinance say? How do you, what's the criteria to do a site plan review? It's not what every other community does. We have a zoning ordinance. You guys have bylaws. What do they say? What should be this decision? This is a minor revision.
It
This
is.
is not major. This is minor. If you guys are gonna argue and have a debate like this, what are you gonna do when Showstat comes with their massive development? So I would request that you guys look at your zoning ordinance and find out what is it that the body's supposed to do for what's been presented to you.
Thank you, Linda.
Linda, thank you. It's absolutely correct.
So I'll direct you to page 8 of the staff report then. So you guys have a table, I'm scrolling through it right now, 64.07 required site plan information. And it's got a table of if it's a minor site plan, here's what you need. If it's a preliminary, here's what you need. If it's a final, here's what you need. A couple of things on page 8 we identified that were missing from the checkbox that says here are things that are supposed to be on there.
And this is for minor site plan?
Correct.
Okay.
Are the setbacks from all the property lines for the proposed building, the floor area ratio, sign details, or just a confirmation that there will be no signs, lighting details, and building details. Now, this body has the opportunity as part of site plan approval, whichever level or category or flavor, to say, we don't need that information in order to determine compliance. We grant a waiver from having that information.
We have everything except for lighting.
Location utilities.
What building details?
Well,
And the
okay.
building plans.
Okay, oh, the building, yeah, the things that you just cited was what I was going by.
Yep.
But like TJ says, building plans and location utilities.
contingent on final
If-
site plan.
If this qualifies for a minor site plan approval, then I don't think we should treat it as
He's
a
gotta come- he's gotta
major
come
site
with
plan
details.
approval.
We already have.
And leave our
The
experts
dimension of the building.
who apparently think that, thought we could go through with it as long as these conditions were met. And
Well, he gets-
Administrative.
you have to have a meeting, so he's gotta have a.
Those three
which
he's
is
gotta
what
have
we do a
another
lot,
meeting.
you know, with approvals.
Right.
We approve with
You still gotta
Yeah,
have-
we leave it up to the professionals to follow through.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
What is on the full list of that, if you could, I mean, if it's 100 bullet points long, don't read it to me, but.
I'll try to do, it's not a lot of bullets for the site plan. Applicant, developer's name, address, telephone number, facsimile number, we don't get facsimile. Name, address, telephone number of the firm or individual who prepared it, location, address, tax identification, dimensions of the site and the gross and net area. Detailed use statement describing proposed use, including land or building areas for each use, number of units, number of anticipated employees, or other applicable information to verify ordinance compliance. Scale of the plans. Scale, north area, initial plan date, and any revision dates. Dimensions of all property boundaries and interior property lines, calculations for parking and other applicable ordinance requirements, location of existing structures, fences, and driveways, delineation of required yards, setback areas, and transition strips. Location, width, purpose, and description of all existing and proposed easements in the right-of-way. Location, type, area, height, and lighting specifications of proposed signs. Location, area, and dimensions of any outdoor sales or display areas. Location, outline, ground floor area, and height of proposed structures and of existing structures to remain on site. Conceptual locations and layout for parking lots, sidewalks, pedestrian ways. Locations and dimension of vehicle access points, parking space dimensions. General layout of proposed landscaping and screening improvements. Proposed fences, walls, and other screening. We're almost done, I promise. Screening methods. Additional information is requested by the township planner or planning commission to verify compliance with the standards and conditions imposed by this ordinance.
Okay, we have a motion to postpone, do we not, on the table? All those in favor of the motion to postpone signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No,
Opposed.
Opposed?
I oppose.
Okay, so motion fails. Okay, we need a motion then to, well, we had the original motion, can we still go with the original?
Yep.
We'll go with the original motion.
And
An
add,
addendum.
Yeah,
Items,
add the
add-
conditions.
add the potential conditions 1, 2, and 6 be included and be approved only when met by the planning administrative people from the office.
Okay,
I'm sorry, just let me look at what 1, 2, and 6 are.
On page 9,
So that would be building plans and floor area ratio calculations added to the minor site plan. Location of utilities to proposed self-storage warehouse building added to the site plan. And exterior lighting fixtures shall be consistent with existing fixtures that were previously approved for phase 1.
right,
When it comes to 5, you're saying do not include 5?
Yep, the township engineer, let me see,
We would require that the plan, we have the stormwater management mitigation or whatever in there, so that the township engineer would be approving the same plan that the township would be looking at?
so here's the note from the township engineer. While the new building will cover more area than the 3 original separate buildings, there will not be any increase in impervious surface. The additional building area will be covering what was originally proposed as pavement, so there is no net increase in impervious surface. For this reason, resubmittal to the Washtenaw County Water Resources Commissioner is not required.
okay. Let's take a roll call vote, being that this is so contentious. Kevin, would you call a roll call vote? to
On the
approve
motion to approve
Yes.
with the,
With the conditions that were mentioned.
Benegary,
Oh, yes.
Is there discussion after the
We had-
motion with conditions? or-
We had all the discussion.
yeah. McLaughlin,
Yes.
Frost, yes. Lewandowski,
yes,
Can,
Um,
on.
Yeah, it's fine. No, and I'm sticking with it because I think we've bent enough with what we have not seen on here. And what are we just gonna keep adding to the if comes, so, yeah.
Rizzo,
Yes.
Motion passed.
5 to
Okay.
1.
Pardon?
5 yes and
1 no.
1 no. Okay.
Report, Board of Trustees, any report? Okay, no report. Zoning Board of Appeals, Darrell?
Nothing.
Okay, land preservation, Bruce, anything?
We're having our meeting tomorrow night, so we also did not meet last month. so we have-
Okay, Bruce, thank you. And planning consultant review, anything new?
Yep, so, I think it's 2 months ago, the township board finally adopted a lot of zoning ordinance amendments that you guys had put through previously. We've just about got it codified, we found some other just formatting issues, not text issues, that are gonna be corrected. So next month, we're gonna have a brand new zoning ordinance for everybody with all this stuff in it. It'll go on the website.
That'd be great.
One of the things, again, I would say, the comfort level for every community is a bit different, and you have kind of guidance on what you want. And you also have the discretion to ask for additional information and to waive some of that information. So as your consultant, we try to tailor it best to what you guys want. And if there's any additional information you want, let us know, or however we do that. I will say, when I was in Dexter Township, I was pretty fierce. We had in our zoning ordinance that it shall be, everything that goes to the planning commission needs to have a review of completeness and get the blessing before it passes go. And that was actually because the planning commission said, where's this thing, why are you here? And they would kind of get upset that there were those things there. So, no one mind, zoning ordinances are flexible documents too, and what's appropriate changes from community to community and within the same community throughout time. So that's what I got.
Thank you. Okay, approval of the minutes from June 30th.
20th.
I make a motion to approve the minutes
June
of
20th. I said it wrong.
2022 as submitted.
I'll second.
Okay, approval by Darrell, seconded by TJ. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, any public comment?
Just we're happy you guys made a decision.
Yeah, I hear you.
Chairperson, no comment. Adjournment. Meeting is over at 9:52.
8:52.
Is that 8?
8:52.
Oh,
It just feels like 9:52.
it does feel like 9, but that's what the clock says up there. I was reading the clock.
Is this what you need for a minor setback?
Oh,
I've always thought.
oh, geez.
Yeah.
Yes, I get rid of it. She went in the back.
Ask questions, challenge that guy.
That?
I was looking at
Yes. Well, it takes them home.
Linda, very, very smart. Linda very smartly centered it by saying, well, what's the regulation for what we could do? You go through the list.
I mean, we proved it was conditions, but you also.
You go through it, and what we should be looking at. What we go through, and what's on the list is, you should have a building plan, you should have a lighting plan, you should have a building plan, you should have a lighting plan, like normally, water runoff, and
Thanks,
we
Darrell.
didn't have it, so we basically just voted on, are we going to not review the data and just pass it forward? When the ordinance says, this is your job to review this data, this is the minimum that's required. So we really voted on that, we voted on it. I like what he was saying about, yeah, what's the requirements of the package, and put it in there.
And actually,
That was, thank you.
and in fact,
There
what I
was a
did,
lot of things kind of missing in that presentation.
Well,
I mean, it's
but
not, the building is simple, I mean, I get it.
But when you went through, you look at the meeting, you look at the meeting, tables, the high power, and meat and potatoes, okay, there's 10 different things, 20 different things. There's WEIGHT of those items. An address, a fax number, a name. Yeah, okay, great, yeah, you misspelled the name, short, we can work with that. Okay, fax number, we don't have fax numbers anymore. Address, well, that's his business address, that's not his PO address. So we can really using it, but a building.
I started,
Sure. So we just voted on, are we going to pass off our job to someone else? We are now irrelevant. We have now just said we are irrelevant, because we can just pass it off to the experts. And that's fine, I don't mind being irrelevant.
It
If
wasn't the best presentation.
the less government, the better. And I will continuously do this. I think, well, and our job is to do that. Someone walks up to me and says, your job is to review your stuff, to challenge the ordinance, to challenge what they're doing. And it shows the way. Yeah.
What's your thought, Matt?
Every community is very different. So I'll go pick on Ann Arbor and Dexter. Ann Arbor, they have a lot more stuff and they lean really heavy on the staff. So the staff recommends this, and they're, okay, we do this, we approve that. It gets to the council. But that's a whole other thing. Dexter Township, they wanted to do metal ladders, so they didn't even want me to give a recommendation. So for them, on that chart with all the things that I read off, I actually put that chart in the staff report and had yes, no, notes on the bottom. Didn't have the staff report, it was long, and it did the same thing for like lighting. Is it consistent with this section, consistent with this section, consistent with that section? So, it's a balancing.
You're leaving for someplace fun.
No, we're redoing the dry system in one of the buildings.
We understand that it's just a storage building, it's an existing business, it's not needed. There is no light on these.
Drainage.
But it's still the,
No,
people are gonna,
Murphy's Law.
people are gonna bring.
Murphy's Law
Yeah.
says that this is the one that's gonna crawl up inside and die and rot.
Yeah, but it's a comfort level, and most of the commissions said it's not gonna affect them. But you're gonna, applicants will keep bringing stuff in until someone.
It's an existing building.
We've done stuff where it says, they show where a light is, and we've done stuff where saying, okay, yeah, we like your lights to low. See you a lot. You gotta show us that you're blocking that light from view with the
Usually
road.
TJ's gonna be on the
Okay.
tape, usually
We
TJ's
don't
gonna be
know
on the tape.
we don't know how they're getting rid of it. You got it. What's your underground system? Where's it feeding to? You got a bazillion different options for 3 buildings and 2 rows in between for where you're running water and your underground. What's this gonna be?
I think in this situation, this guy knows the town. I think,
And all that does is move you up to the next guy that's interested, so you're giving this guy special consideration. Watching these follow the rules.
you have a point there.
And that's just,
You have a point there.
that's the one that's.
And that's the fun one where zoning gets into constitutional law real quick and hard.
Yeah, no, I said we bounce back.
Equal protection and due process.
You have a point. I can argue that one. He can do a white can I. If he can do a white can I.
This is in. American Storage got sold. Whatever his name is. Whatever.
Why did,
This company got the same business name.
Yeah, because what they say,
is that why his name's not out? I'm sorry, Oliver.
well, and they use this
Why
for
was it not?
I don't know him from that.
You might be the other guy, just corporate guy. This could be just acquisitions.
No, he later guys.
No, but I think it could be owned by a corporation, not a private owner.
well, that's the trick that those companies that they don't sell the property, they sell the LLC that owns the property because it doesn't then pop up.
I wonder if storage sounds pumping, they're buying everybody up. in
Linda,
that area.
thank you.
I
No,
wonder-
no,
I wonder
that
if
was,
Zach could get storage.
that's, I didn't,
I didn't go
you know,
down
you
that.
dig down to a foundation,